Well, greetings everybody. I've got a new project for you today that I hope you'll be interested in doing. You know, we go through a lot of trouble when we build a electronic project, you know, with the planning of the circuitry and the choosing of the components and everything. But one thing that a lot of guys fall short on when they do these things is, what do you do about the lettering on your project? And so I've got a whole bunch of different ways to do that, and I'm going to start out and showing you how I began, and this is going to take us back a long time ago, but just to give you an idea of the importance of lettering though, for instance, this is one of my latest projects, and you've seen it before, and it's done basically with black lettering on a gray case. But this was a little bit challenging because of the circle here that was a little hard to keep where the numbers were going to be when you turn the knob. So that was a little bit of a problem on this one. And that's probably the most difficult thing you may run into while working on these things. But I'll show you an easy way to do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you some of my other projects here that I've lettered. And let's just go up to this one right here. This zoom in on him. This is a little audio oscillator I built years ago, but as you can see, it's done with black lettering on a gray chassis box, which worked out quite well. Now, here's something a little different. This is a signal tracer that I did white lettering on a black background. And then up a little bit below here, we also have another, this is a frequency counter that I did black lettering over a cream colored background. And then this one here is a power supply that I built, variable regulated current limited power supply. Again, black letters over a gray background. Now you can always choose any color you want, but let me just get back to our original project here. And I want to show you some different methods of lettering your favorite project. And some pros and cons for each one of them. Now the first one, as you can see, this is the way I used to do it years ago, was just a embossing tape, which is frankly is quite ugly on a project, but there are places for it, and let me show you that. Now this is an old antenna match that I did years ago, and I use a combination of embossing tape and white lettering on it, but here's what the embossing tape looks like. And it holds up really well, and no problem with that, and it's easy to apply. It just doesn't look very professional, and so I don't really like doing it that way. But anyway, when you're a ham operator and you don't have much money, and that's the way to go. The next process would be just to get a label maker like this one, and just create your own labels. And I would prefer you to use clear tape. That way you can stick it on your project, and you don't have to worry about an ugly looking tape background. It shows up quite well, and it works quite well, and you can choose from different fonts and things. The only problem is if you want something with a different color, you're stuck with black, and black only on this. It doesn't do white. It doesn't do brown. It doesn't do gold. It's just black. Now, the only time I've ever really needed a different color would be like in this project here, where I just put on here the name of the project and my model number on that, and I did it in gold with a little black outline on it. If I can get that without getting too bad of a reflection on it. And I did that on a printer, of course. And these are actually decals. And that is my preferred method of doing it. Now, before I get into decals, let me show you what I used to use for years and years. It was rub-on lettering, like these right here. And they work quite well. They're horribly tedious. You got to put on each letter at a time, unless you buy some pre-built ones like so, where you have the different words on it. But again, you're stuck with one font and one size of font. And you can get, like from the old Radio Shack, you can get some graphics here that you can use for switches and knobs and things. But again, it's pretty limited, and it's, like I say, it's very tedious getting these things to line up. And so what I did, instead of using these, which I did for many, many years, I went to using decals. Yeah, some people call them decals. I don't know. Some people also say solder instead of solder, but that's just me. That's my Midwestern accent, I guess you'd say. These are just water slide decals that you can print on your either a inkjet or laser printer. And I had a few of them here, some left over. Yeah, here's some. Here's a few that I just want to tell you, if you're going to do this, instead of just blowing a whole sheet on one or two words, just fill the whole sheet up with anything you can think of, because you're gonna waste a page anyway. So when you print this, the beauty of this is you can pick any color you want except for white. Printers do not print white. When you see white on a page, it's because there's no ink there, or no toner there either. It's a white piece of paper with a black background. So printers do not print white. So if you need white, you're gonna have to go to these dry transfer rub-on letters. The real advantage of decals is once you print them and seal them, all you have to do is cut them out, dip them in water for a couple of minutes, and then slide them right onto your project. And you can make them any size you want. You can even make directions like it did on the back of this, where you can put the whole thing on there. And this would have taken me forever to do this one letter at a time, and this was really nice. The other beautiful thing about this is you can't really see the edge of the decal on this. You're going to have to look really close and get a reflection off that to see where the actual edge of the decal is. And you also have the additional privilege of being able to slide them around a little bit and line them up better. Now, what I did on this one, on this project here, was I actually printed this off on a blank piece of paper and put it on top of the shaft here, and marked where the actual settings would be. and then readjusted my graphic in my favorite editor, like Photoshop or Affinity, and readjusted where the positions would be. And that way I knew exactly what was going to happen. When I set this at 300 volts, it was 300 volts, and no more, no less. And then after that, I printed the decal. And so one other thing you will need is a little spray can of this stuff, and it's decal bonding spray. You will definitely need this. You coat once you get it printed, you coat the decal sheet, just spray it on, just give it a light coat, and seal it, because if you don't, the minute you dip it in the water and you rub your thumb on it, over it or something, all your lettering is just going to slide right off and go away. And so you want to seal it first, let it dry for a few minutes, and then you can cut it out and begin lettering your project. Now I've also, I want to show you a couple of other projects I did. I think it was about 10 years ago I started playing guitar, and I didn't have an electric guitar amp, and so I decided to build my own. And I built this one right here. As you can see, I took an old speaker cabinet that I had made in my junior high school wood shop back in the 60s. And it was just an empty speaker box, and I gutted it. I built a chassis for it and built a little guitar amplifier, a vacuum tube type amplifier on it. And as you can see here, I was able to fit it inside the speaker box, and used one of Uncle Doug's schematics and one of his videos on building vacuum tube type guitar amps. And using that video, I built this one, which has been really nice, and it sounds great. When it came to putting on the lettering for the control panel, I had a little bit of a problem, because as you can see in this photo, I was trying to put it on a piece of brass sheeting, and in the middle of winter time, it was cold, and using old lettering, it did not stick at all. And so what I ended up doing was having to heat up the brass plate by putting a soldering iron underneath and just letting the heat rise up and warm up the plate enough to where it would make the lettering tacky. Once I got it all lettered, I hit it with a coat of clear acrylic enamel, and it turned out quite well, but it was tedious. It really was. Now, the other project I want to do, and I want to show you, and I kind of saved this for last, is I recently rebuilt this tube tester. I was able to repaint the cabinet on it, and redid the rollers here for the tube chart selector. But if you'll notice right over here, I'll take the lid off there so it doesn't get in the way. If you will notice right here on the short and value, this thing's been used so much that it wore off the lettering on here, and you can see someone kind of went over it with a black Sharpie just to get new lettering on it. Get a little closer here. And we'll have to do something about that. I'll probably take that off, starting with maybe something not too destructive, like maybe some Roncinol or something. And if that doesn't work, we'll start moving our way up to a little bit harsher chemicals. And we want to re-letter that and make it look like the font on some of these other places, like right here. But it's in brown, and so we'll definitely have to do some kind of decal. Now on the side here, I don't know who did this, but many years ago, someone decided to put in a receptacle, 120 volt receptacle in here, and I kept that. I just didn't want to leave the holes there, so I kept that in there. But I did put a fuse holder here, and so I'm going to make some labels, and we'll label that with a process I'll show you that you may not have heard of before. If you're into arts and crafts, you know about this, but if you're into electronics, you may not have heard anything about it. But let's get started, and I'll show you how to do that. But first, I think we'll see if we can remove the lettering from here without destroying the underlying paint. Okay, we'll get out our trusty can of lighter fluid here, and we'll soak this down. This is a little trick I kind of learned while working on guitars, is that Roncinol can take off a lot of stuff off the body of a guitar and not hurt the paint any. So we're going to see if we can at least get rid of this value here, this word. It took a little bit off. Change the color anyway. I think we're going to take this switch off here, or this knob off. And that's going to take a little bit of effort. We may end up going to my next line of solvent, which will probably be 100% alcohol, I think. Yeah, I think we're getting there. Next step is some lacquer thinner. I'm going to be very careful with this stuff, because that's going to be pretty butch when it comes to taking paint off. Let's see what that does. Well, that's getting it. One thing, if you're going to do this, you want to take a picture of it before you remove all the lettering, so you know what was on there. I've got a little burnishing tool here. I'm going to try to peel some of that old lettering off with. Oh, that's working pretty good. It's got a nice rounded end on it, so it's not really tearing up the substrate paint. These are called fret erasers. They're for working on guitars and polishing frets up. This is a 1000 grit, basically sanding block, miniature sanding block. I'm going to use on this just to smooth it out a little bit. As promised, I'm going to show you an alternate way to put labels on your project using just packing tape and a pre-printed label sheet. Now, nothing special about this. It's just a piece of paper. I printed off several labels here, and I'm going to use this packing tape to create a label, and this is very useful if you don't have any decals or any other way to label your project. This works really good, and so all you have to do is print out your labels, of course, and then we'll just come over here and we'll start with well, let's start with this 250 watt max label, and we'll just carefully cut it out here. Notice I printed a whole bunch because that way if you mess it up, you can just very easily start over. So I'm going to trim this up a little better here. Which is why you want to print a whole bunch of them if you have the chance. So you can go back and redo some errors that you made earlier. Anyway, our first step here will be to cut out your label and lay it down on something flat like you see here. And I'm going to reposition the camera slightly and zoom in on this so we can see it a little bit better. And grab your packing tape and carefully tear off a piece of it. And then take your packing tape and apply it. And you'll notice that just jumped right on there from the static electricity, which is okay. That'll keep all the air bubbles out. And we'll put this on here and rub it on pretty good. And what we'll do is use something rounded and smooth that we can kind of burnish this packing tape onto it. And anything round and smooth will work for this. Okay. And now that we've got that burnished on there, we'll just go ahead and take this, and I think we can probably just dump the whole thing in our tray of water that we prepared earlier. And we'll just let that sit in there so it'll soak up from the back side. And we'll have to kind of keep it underwater, so you could put something on this to kind of hold it down underwater for a little bit. And we'll let that set for about 10 minutes and we'll come right back. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes now, and I think we're ready to go on to the next phase of this process. So once your label's soaked there for a while, let's take it out. And what you'll want to do is use your thumb and rub off the paper on this. Just like that. And you can re-wet it if you need to. Just enough to get that paper backing off. Okay. And we'll take a clean, lint-free rag and kind of blot the excess water off here. So now what we've got is a nice clear label. You can actually see through it, and we'll cut it out to fit our project, so it'll look fairly nice. Now remember, since this is backing tape, it'll be sticky on one side, and that will allow us to stick it onto our project. Let me trim this up a little more carefully here and round off the edges somewhat. That way we won't have any dog ears to contend with. One more to do here. There we go. Okay. Now let me reposition the camera here a little bit. And over to our project. And we'll go ahead and line up our lettering over where we want to put it. And just press it on there. I'll go ahead and use a rounded edge of something here, and we'll just burnish that a little bit better and stick it on there a little better. As I said, anything will work for this. Yeah, on that a little bit. You can see that a little better now. Let me get the lighting changed on it. Okay, as our final process in this ordeal here will be to kind of seal this label off, and what I usually do is take some clear acrylic, and I'll spray a little in a cup here. I'll get this to work. There we go. And then we'll take a artist brush and dip it in there, and then we'll just lightly go over this just to seal off the edges. And that's really all you need to do with this. That'll keep the edges from peeling up, and that will last virtually forever. And that is a nice process. If you don't have any dry transfers, or if you don't have any decals, you can use this. You can use this process with just regular old packing tape and a printer. Works great. And now for our final method of putting on lettering on your project, and quite possibly my favorite way of doing this. At least it's the quickest way, and that's to print your label out on some decal paper and cut it out. Drop it in the water for just a couple of minutes, and we'll take the label out of the water right here, and I'm going to reposition the camera here a second so we can see our project a little better. And one thing you'll want to do is dip your finger in the water and just run it over the area where you're going to apply the label. That way, if you have to move it around a little bit, you can. And then up here, slide it off to the side just a little bit, and put it right next to your witness mark. And then just slide it onto your project, like so. And if you have to reposition it a little bit, that's okay. Quite easy to do. And once you have it in place, just go ahead and dab it a little bit with a clean, lint-free cloth to get any excess moisture out of it. And I'm going to go ahead and put my knob on just to see how close we are. Yes, that looks good. Okay, and there you have it. Easy as that. My best method. Just go ahead and subscribe, ring that bell, and give me a like. I sure appreciate it. We'll see you in the next video.